So welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be going over some small things that you can do when preparing to sell your hunting property. So we wanted to let you guys know, to our first 1,500 subscribers, we're going to be doing a giveaway. Whoever the winner is will have the choice between either a nested backpack, which comes with a set of climbing sticks and a tree stand, or a top-of-the-line Reconyx trail camera. All you have to do to get entered to win is subscribe to our channel and email us a screenshot that shows that you're subscribed. And then whenever we're ready to hold the contest, we'll have a deer head on display and some trail camera pictures of it. And then you guys will get to estimate the score of the deer, and whoever's the closest will get to choose between the nested backpack or the top-of-the-line Reconyx trail camera. So the first obvious step when starting the process of selling your hunting farm will be looking for a reputable realtor. You're going to want a realtor that has the ability to advertise and promote your property to a large audience. And of course, you'd want a realtor that has a good, strong, positive reputation.
So this is not something that you're going to be able to do at the last minute, but if you're thinking about selling your hunting farm in the near future, it's something that you can do that's going to make a big difference, I think. And that is when you're out setting your trail cameras, because I think everybody is aware that, each hunting property has a list of trail cam photos that goes with it on the market. That's a great way to advertise your property, but unfortunately there's some bad actors out there, so it's not hard to see how they could be deceiving potential buyers by using trail cam photos that aren't actually even taken in the same county in some instances. So to protect yourself from this as a seller, something that you can do when you're setting your trail cameras out, have some kind of landmarks in the background so that you can say, hey, this is where this picture was taken on the farm, and that potential buyer can go out and actually see that landmark, whether it's a tree in the background or a particular field or food plot, a tree stand in the background, or some sort of deer stand that sits in the background. These things are going to verify for that buyer that these pictures were actually taken on the property where you said they were. Another thing that would be a big negative in a buyer's eyes is if you have arrangements with some locals in the area and they're actually using the property in ways that you don't think is very intrusive, but to a potential buyer might be. I'll give you an example of this. It's actually something that happened to me and a buddy of mine. We leased this property for deer hunting. It had an old road that ran down through the center of the property. The road led to the river, which was the border on one side of the property. Well, a lot of the locals had been allowed to use that old road to access some fishing on the river that was on that one side of the property. Over the years, it was kind of well known in the neighborhood that anybody could go down there and go through the farm to go fishing on the river. There was a lot of people doing that periodically throughout the year. Some people were fishing in the springtime, others in the summer. Some people were fishing in the fall during the deer season, and so on. So we didn't realize that this was the case. It could have easily been solved with a gate at the front of that property, because it would have been hard to notify everyone that this was no longer going to be allowed. We actually realized this when we were out checking food plots one day. We got back to our trucks, me and my buddy, and there was a couple guys up there on horseback, and one of them was pretty intoxicated, like to the point where he couldn't really be understood. You couldn't understand a word this guy was saying. I thought he was going to fall off his horse. As a matter of fact, he had fallen off earlier and had a big gash on his arm, and his shoulder was all bruised. So it's quite the fiasco. As a seller, if you have these types of things going on, you probably want to be putting a stop to that before listing that property for sale. There's no better way to run off a potential buyer.
So that leads to another thing that you can do as a landowner. You can have good gates on the property with padlocks, along with having the property posted along the property lines. It'll give the buyer a little bit of peace of mind that he might not have to deal with some of those types of issues.
So that can make a big difference in whether he buys it or not. So another thing that you can do when thinking about selling your property, even if you're not a hunter, you can have designated areas that are somewhat maintained that would be good areas for food plots. And you can simply do this by keeping those areas mowed periodically while you have that property listed with a realtor, so that when that potential buyer comes out to take a look at the farm, he can visualize food plots being planted in those areas. This might be a little secluded bottom field that you've let grow up to briars or young trees or brush. Having that mowed out, again, not having it planted is fine. Whoever buys the property can go in there and actually plant the food plots. But having those areas easy for that buyer to access, to see, and not grown up with brush and that sort of stuff is going to be a plus, because he's going to be able to visualize the potential of those areas becoming food plots easy enough.
So access is another thing that you can do to get more interest in your property. If somebody's buying 300 acres, most likely they're going to want to be able to access and hunt all 300 acres. And having mowed trails, not only for when they're there looking at the property, but that they can keep maintained once they buy the property, so that they can fully access the whole property when they're going to be using it to hunt in the future.
Yeah, that would be important to me if I get out there and it's summertime and I'm looking at the property. I'm considering buying this, but I can't get to 100 acres of the 300 acres. I mean, I'm not going to go walking through briars and get full of ticks and all this mess to see that 100 acres. If it's 100 degrees out, it's going to be difficult to look at it thoroughly if there's not good access to it. Which brings me to some farms are not going to have creek crossings on them, but those that do, as a seller, a simple thing that you could do to ease that buyer's mind is, one, having those creek crossings where they're in good shape, whether they need tubes in them or they just need some rock in them, or they need to be mowed, brush pushed back, whatever the case might be, just having them in good shape so that when your realtor is taking that potential buyer down through there, they're not going to get stuck. It's going to be easy for them to get back and forth through the property to take a look at what your property has to offer. It's just a simple thing that you can do if you don't have those in good shape, half a day or whatever out there with a piece of equipment and get them in good shape so that it makes everybody's job easier. It's easier for that buyer to view the property. It's one less thing that he's going to have to do once he purchases the property too.
Another thing that you can do is not only have pictures of deer that you've harvested on your property, but also maybe try to get some pictures from the neighbors of deer that they may have harvested in the immediate area, so that your realtor can show your potential buyer. It'll give him a little bit of an idea of what type of genetics are in the area and what he can expect. This will also give him an idea of if there's mature deer in the area.
Another simple thing that you can do to help promote your property is have a little list of each of your bordering neighbors' kind of background. And what I mean is, on this list you have each neighbor's name and their contact information and how they utilize their property, whether it's an agricultural farm or the property owner allows kids from the neighborhood to go out, shed antler hunt, or whatever the case might be. Just having a list of each one of the landowners that share property lines with you is going to help that potential buyer to understand the neighborhood a little bit better. And it's going to save him a lot of legwork and trying to figure these things out.
Yeah, so some of them things might be important to some people and not important to other people, because everybody is going to be using that property a little bit different.
Right, yeah. And so it just gives a guy a good place to start, whether or not his plan is going to be conducive for that particular neighborhood.
So hopefully you can find some of these things helpful when you're considering putting your property up for sale. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned, and remember, hard work is more reliable than luck.